Welcome back to the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast. I have Jack Lau back for his second visit on the podcast. Thanks for being on here, dude.
Hey, man. It's good to hear your voice.
Yeah. I've been following you guys, man. It's been a lot of fun to listen to the sheep hunts and the moose hunts and everything else, seeing what's going on up there. It's sounds like you guys had a pretty good late summer and early fall.
Yeah, busy season for us, the fall. The summer and the fall, I guess. But yeah, harvest is on. Yeah. I feel like we're finally settling down a little bit.
Yeah, it goes so fast. By the time you can kind of catch up and do some sort of recap, it's already on to something else. And if you try to do a preview and a recap, it's almost impossible because there's just so much stuff going on. But I kind of wanted to focus on the moose camp a little bit here. So what episode was it that you kind of recapped? So we don't have to recap too much. I'll kind of direct the listeners to your
what was that?
podcast.
Let me look real quick. I think it was before that. I got it dialed in here. Let's find that. Yeah, that was fun having my dad and Earl on with us. Some old Codgers. It was our Codgers. It was a very, very good time. Let's see here.
That's typically who goes on that trip, or is that a little different than normal?
No, so ours has been pretty much the same kind of core people. It was episode 29.
29, okay.
Yeah. So it's been pretty much the core people since our first year in was 91, because this was the 30th year that we had been going into that camp. We kind of had a group of four of my dad's buddies, my dad and three other buddies, and as those guys kind of had life changes and stuff, a few of us have kind of stepped in their role. So it's myself, another guy, Corey, who's basically family. Then Earl, who's been going forever, killer trad bow guy, and then my dad. And it's kind of like we don't invite anyone else. It's just us. So two younger guys and two older guys, and I think they really need our help now. This big moose.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what it sounds like, is that the moose camp is kind of an exclusive type thing, whereas I think for the most part you have hunting buddies, but you kind of go to different mountains, different areas, different whatever, but the interchangeability in a moose camp is not prevalent or not very existent. Do you kind of see that kind of consistent with most people around?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that's true. It seems like they either got their spot and they want to keep it real secret, or there's some sort of difficulty or struggle to get to where they're going, and they have that dialed in and trust each other. And I think ours is a little bit of both, where we want to keep our spot pretty quiet. It's not a big spot; it's actually really small. It's a small little valley that basically is locked in on three sides with mountains. So if you had another group in there, it would be disruptive, and really probably not enough moose. But then the difficulty getting in, you got to be able to trust these people with whatever your method you're doing to get in, if it's airplanes or boats or wheelers or a mix. A lot of times it's a mix of some of those to get into these spots. And the three guys we go with are three people that I kind of trust my life with, and trust that like we hit a roadblock, we'll figure it out. Everyone downloads and knows that the specs on their machine, the user's guide on their machine, the manual on their machines, that kind of thing, and bring spare parts for the things that are most commonly broken, and the tools to fix them, and have that kind of know-how, the problem, be able to diagnose a problem remotely. I think that kind of stuff's super important. And then you got to be able to like hang out with someone and really enjoy life for 7 to 9 days.
Yeah. Would you
say
say
having a good locker? And
it seems like there's like a different program, obviously a different program for each sort of hunt, but it seems like a moose camp is pretty complex in the amount of things that you have to bring. Is it more difficult to plan like a moose hunt than a sheep hunt? Like a sheep hunt, you definitely dangerous, very difficult to get to where you're going. But as far as the amount of things that you need to bring, you're not worried about, four wheelers breaking down necessarily, or Argos, or all these other things, or canvas tents and whatnot. Is it more challenging to pack and bring everything that you need on a moose hunt than a sheep hunt, or is it just
I,
different?
yeah, I think that to do it right, it is. But I think like as like new kind of hunters and adventurers go out and do stuff, they don't really have that years of experience to know like, hey, I want to have all this extra stuff. I want to know how to fix my machine, and I want to have a wall tent and like eat good food, and you kind of like grow into that. At least we did. Our sheep hunts around 91 took way more planning than our moose hunts. But now I'd say the moose hunt takes way more planning than it did then, or a sheep hunt does now. If that makes sense, it just kind of grows with you over time. You learn what you like and what you don't like, and then you end up with this thing that's a lot like when you've lived in a house for a long time and you're about to move and you're like, man, how did I acquire all this extra junk? Your moose hunting list gets like that. So this year we had our big cleanup and we were able to remove like 4 totes from the trailer of stuff that was like, do we really want that?
So,
So it was the lightest we'd ever gone in. I was like, are you sure we have enough stuff? We got there, it was like, oh, we have plenty of stuff.
that's fine. So, would you say that stuff grew from like necessity, and you convince yourself that these things were necessities when really they were luxuries, or is that just kind of part of what makes a moose camp good? Because your comfort level might be a little bit different since the weather is going to be different.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it was probably luxuries and personalities. It's like, oh, we need this now. Oh, we need that now. And this. And then, someone falls off and it's like, well, do we really need that stuff that other person really liked to have? And our camp was unique where one of the folks that had come in with us for a long time, he's not with us anymore, but super great guy. He would go in for 4 or 5 weeks.
Wow.
So and he's just camping, well, we're not just camping, so we don't need 4 or 5 weeks worth of stuff anymore. So ours was a little unique in that way. But yeah, I think a lot of it is luxury. Like I bring hangers so I can dry my jackets out, right? And so that's like the level of luxury. Wood stoves and a water heater that attaches the wood stove and big old Dutch ovens. So you just kind of end up with a lot of stuff.
Why not though, right? I mean, there's a it makes a lot of sense when you're going alpine to cut as many pounds or ounces as possible because you're going to have to carry all that stuff around and it might be super cumbersome. But if you have the ability to get the stuff back there, then I mean, if
Yeah.
it serves a purpose, then absolutely. Like hanging something up to be able to dry it more efficiently makes absolute sense. And if it's not like you're hiking that up a mountain on a sheep hunt, that'd be pretty ridiculous. But
Yeah.
might as well.
I, but for me, the gear loading should be okay. The goal is to get one moose. If we get one moose, can we take the whole camp out and that moose in one trip? And that as long as we can stay in that realm, then load it up. But as soon as you start bringing so much stuff that you have to make 2 trips for that first moose, then it's just not worth it. That added luxury, and then the extra days it takes to go in and out, and then the extra wear on your equipment, and just opportunity for things to break down. That's never fun.
Yeah.
It's never fun.
Do you think part of it is because the alpine season is so kind of grueling and you're deprived of so many things? Like if moose season came before sheep season, do you think that you'd bring as much stuff in, or is it just kind of a response to months of as light as possible because it's so difficult? So you know what? I'm going to bring everything just because 2 months ago I was miserable.
It's not because of the past experience of that year for sure. It's not like that reactive. Our lists are very consistent. I'd say that you want to be comfortable, and so 2 years ago it snowed a foot. This year was pretty rainy and windy. 3 years ago, 3 years ago it was pretty nice. 4 years ago it was pretty nice, whereas warm, I couldn't even wear wool pants. So you want to be comfortable for that condition. If it's raining all day, or snowing, wind, that kind of thing. And then the other thing is, you're going out, you don't get this much time to go out and spend, this many opportunities to spend 7 to 9 days out there. It's like, why not be comfortable where I can be like mindful of give me more of an opportunity to be mindful of where I'm at and how awesome this is that I get to do this.
Yeah.
Cause it's going to be another year before you can go back.
Yeah. Do you usually just make one big trip?
So the way that we do it is, my dad and John and Earl go in early. And then they come out and meet Corey and I a couple days, 3-4 days after they've been in. And then we'll go in and spend 7 to 9 more days. And then we all come out together. Nice. And that's usually my trip into there for the year. This year there was a lot of trail maintenance that had to be done. And we're one of those groups of people that feel like, okay, if you're using something in Alaska, you need to take care of it. Mm-hmm. So we always spend time on trail maintenance, especially when you start to see things like washouts and stuff, which we had a lot of that this last year. So if we hadn't got the moose early enough, the second moose, we got 2 moose, then we would have probably come back in to do trail maintenance, but we were able to spend a day and a half doing trail maintenance after I had got my moose. So that was really nice to be able to do that. So just one trip. It's a long haul where we go. And it's just like with the young family and stuff, it's really, those are precious days.
Yeah, that sounds really appealing. Of course, being in Southeast, the programs that we run are, go for days or as many days as you can stack together in the Alpine for deer. But then when rut starts, it's just kind of a weekend warrior thing. And every, weekend go out, camp a night. So you're camping like 5 days, but, over maybe 3 weeks or something like that when the rut's really going.
Right.
But, and that's, you have that experience, and then you have the rest of the week to kind of second guess, analyze, maybe make a different maneuver, maybe go back to the same spot from try a different angle on this muskeg or something like that. Do you ever feel, I know it's obviously been good enough to where, you go to the same spot. Like, have you ever felt like moving to a different spot? Have you been worried that maybe the spot's gonna stop producing, or are you content with it?
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
We're in a really low moose per mile density area, and we still do well. But we work really hard, and it's just like added challenge with all the kind of features we have there. There's a lot of predators. There's 2 wolf packs that we're aware of. lots of grizzly bears. And then the features are lots of draws, lots of quick drop off benches, big willows, lots of alders. It's a really kind of a hard place to hunt. And when I was younger, it was always like, let's go find one of these places that are like in all these videos where you get on a knoll and you can see and call, and we can still climb mountains, but it's not the same kind of openness that you see in like the classic like Alaska moose hunting movies, and like you'd see up at Upper Huffman at Barrowland Pass. But I like it now. So when I was younger, I was like, man, we should move. But it's that added challenge. I really like it. And then just like when we drop over over this last saddle down into our little valley, man, I just feel like I got home, and it's been a long time since I was there. I don't think I could go a year without it.
Yeah, having intimate knowledge of an area, it really helps with that just confidence when you're hunting an area, because the more that you're kind of out there in a new spot, you just get the feeling that they absolutely have the advantage because they live there full time. They know how to get out of different places, and they know just everything about it. So the longer that you're back there too, you can kind of narrow that gap and you get an idea of how the animals move, and that confidence is so important. And learning a place is so much fun. Like you said, that familiarity it does make it feel like home, and that experience is great. It's always fun to see new territory, but at the same time, it's once you learn a spot and you're still successful, like why would you leave, right?
Yeah, exactly. It would be nice, like someday when I would have more time to be able to go up to Army's camp and then join someone else helping them on in their experience, just to experience something new. I think I would really get a lot out of that, especially like a raft hunt, something more dynamic than kind of the opposite of what we do. But I think that would be really cool. It's definitely appealing, but then when you get to go hunt with your dad and just like basically family members, I just couldn't miss it. It's great being out there for a week with them.
Yeah. If you were going to give some advice to someone who's trying to scout and find a spot, like their spot that's going to be their 20, 30, 40-year spot, what are you looking for as far as scouting? Is it possible to e-scout a moose spot? Are you looking for different or certain things when it comes to texture? Are you looking for accessibility to, like, do you want swamplands? Do you want river? Do you want access to bluffs for glassing? What are you looking at if you're scouting something?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to preference, because there's moose everywhere in Alaska, which we're really fortunate. And I'm really not a lowland hunter. I've tried. I don't like it. I don't like sitting on swamps and stuff. I think that you get a lot of good moose density all along those kind of areas. A lot of traffic and on like riverbed systems where you can float and walk into the kind of the lowland meadows and stuff. But I like to get high, and I like to be close to alpine. But that's kind of like my preference as just like an outdoor person. Mm-hmm. I spend a lot of time in the mountains. I really enjoy that. I like getting up high, and I really enjoy spotting versus calling. So I will call, absolutely, but I love glassing. And reaching those places to glass by foot. I don't like the areas where like you can four-wheeler right up to the top, and I feel like you got to kind of earn the trip a little bit. I don't know if everyone feels that way, but I think that for me, when I'm looking for a good moose spot, I'm looking like for places like Powerline Pass, like. You got this big open, maybe delta sort of area, or a big giant river system that opens up to some lowlands that moose can use to get up to a little bit higher country, and like the bigger valley of the group. So if there's on the edge of some mountains and there's 5 or 6 valleys going up, I would try to take the bigger one and go up far. I like to get up to like where you're close to alpine, right below the alders kind of area. I feel like I see a lot of moose in that area. I can usually get to places I can spot pretty easily. And then I'm just in a terrain, a type of forest that I'm very comfortable in and enjoy. But I mean, then again, like these guys, how many people go down the Yukon or up the Big Sioux or, these big river systems, and they do really good.
Yeah.
And it, probably not as many time on your tread,
Yeah.
as much time on tread.
How much, or what's your mileage expectations when it comes to your daily circuit or routine? Once you get back in there and you've established your camp, are you going on walks for a couple miles? Or are you going to a glassing spot 2-3 miles away? What's the daily mileage look like?
Yeah, we usually walk loops where we're at. Like I said, there's a lot of features and a lot of opportunities to gain elevation. So the loops, the shortest one's about 5 miles that I like to walk. And so I could do part of that, but yeah. Well, I should say that there's another one up to a knoll I really like that's about 2.5 miles. So yeah, 2.5 to 5. There's some bigger ones too, but a lot of time on the ground on these game trails. And then there's spots along those game trails I like to call or take a nap, or and then I like to hunt, dusk and dawn for sure, and then I really am a believer of following the lunar. I need to learn more about it, but the lunar game calendar. The bites on. The animals are moving heavy in that lunar period, supposedly. And I see a move. You won't see a moose or a deer move, and then suddenly it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they get up and they want to change where they're bedded or get a drink of water, and maybe I'll be having a caribou call and then look over and there's a moose. So I do hunt that, but the rest of the time it's downtime for me. It's either, chopping wood, which I really am a believer of chopping wood at your camp and making some noise for the rut. And then a lot of reading. I think I get more reading done at moose camp than the rest of the year.
Oh, really? Interesting. Do you have anything that you like to read specifically? Is it outdoor adventure, or is it, like magazine articles, classic books?
I kind of like a nonfiction guy. What did I read this year? Was like the Simple Guide to History or something like that. Oh, what was it? Anyway, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was like a little about everything in history. Had my feet up next to the wood stove, and it was good.
Nice. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'm kind of a nonfiction guy.
Yeah, me too. There's some fiction that I like, but the true stories are so unbelievably interesting anyway.
Yeah. Right. I did bring a parenting book up because I always swear I'm gonna read these things, and I seem to not get very far. I'm about 15 or 20 minutes, and I move on to something else. But someday I'll get through more of those.
Yeah. One of the things that kind of surprised me was I was just getting on X and looking around the state, as you just kind of do sometimes when you're bored. It's not a lot, but it's a lot more than I expected. Private property in these random little squares and rectangles all throughout, like the Matsu Valley on the other side of the Susitna River, and there's just a lot more of these little plots that are owned by people. Do you know people who go out to these spots, and how do you access some of these things? There's a lot of these things for sale too, and I was pretty amazed by just a lot of that.
Where I hunt, it typically isn't close to town for anything. So I haven't really dealt with that. Sometimes you'll run into a random plot, or more often than not, it's a change in use area. Maybe it's a border of another area that's not open, or maybe some native land that you need permission to hunt on or something. But I haven't ran into a lot of that. I think those are mostly from like the state auctions and stuff, and go marking your own land. But I don't really deal with those. I know a lot of the stuff are closer, accessible by plane. Has, you know, these lakes and stuff will have some land around the lakes that'll be a private property. But I haven't truthfully spent a lot of time doing that stuff.
Yeah,
I get out further.
Yeah, it's kind of weird just to look. Like I said, I was just looking around, just choosing random rivers right here. You go west of the Susitna and you go up the Squentna River, and there's Squentna, and that's one of the spots on the Iditarod Trail. So that makes sense that there might be a little bit of a patch of private land there. But there are some squares west of Squentna, and Shelf Lake makes sense that there's, you know, probably a landing strip in there or people land on the lake, but then there's just some random rectangles as you get closer and closer to those mountains. It's just, man, how would someone get in there, and how do you own that? And then if you did end up like buying this little square of land, like, gosh, it'd be tough to get back there and try to develop it and put in an airstrip so you could actually use it. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. A lot of times those are developed in the winter with snow machines.
Oh yeah.
So you haul in all your lumber. You know, we have some friends. We had Adam Markham on our podcast. They built a big old cabin over there. You know, they built in the summer, but they got all the loads in during the winter. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty cool process, and it would be a fun thing to do. Get out there and do that.
I think that's part of the romantic Alaska notion is, A, you live in Alaska, but B, if you live in Alaska, there's that pull to have the cabin somewhere, the little, you know, place where you can kind of get away, get off the grid for maybe longer than just a couple of weeks. You know, maybe spend a couple seasons up there and go off the grid. And I think that'd be a lot of fun to have a nice little trapper cabin up somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's just, you know, you get off the grid and it's like a big reset. You know, get away from all the technology and just the day to day. Man, I'd be a huge fan. Yeah, I think what there should be more of is groups that like buy the cat and buy the land, get the land, stake the land, you know, whatever they're doing, auction from an auction, and then developing it together and then maintaining it together. So it just, to me, like, to have a remote cabin like that, it's like, okay, how many weeks a year do I need to get out there just for like maintenance and make sure I feel like I'm using it? And if you did this with like a group, then, you know, you don't feel as obligated. You know, you're like, oh, you know, I'm okay not going out this month, you know. I'm going to do these other cool Alaska things. The state's so big. We have so much rad stuff to do. It's just like to not feel the pressure, internal pressure to be out on your land. Would be pretty cool.
Yeah, there's some lots for sale around Ketchikan, which are pretty cool. And you think about, well, I could, you know, the lot's not super expensive. This, of course, is me looking at the fact that I don't own a home right now, and Abby and I would like to buy a home, and she needs a vehicle. Like, I mean, that's where the money's really going to go. But when you ignore all the real life stuff and you get to this fantasy world, we start thinking about, you know, a little cabin somewhere. But then, you know, is that like the spot? You want the cabin that you go to have something really cool, be really accessible. So like the fishing is fantastic there, or the hunting there is great, or, you know, you can set shrimp pots, crab pots right there. Because if it's not, then, you know, if home is better, then why are you going to spend all that time out there? Or do you want to spend money on a better boat, and you can just go further in the boat to investigate all these different coves and areas? But I don't know. It's it's tough.
That's the decision I made was do a cabin or boat, and I went boat, and I'm pretty happy with it. You can move that to different coves and bays, and I still feel the same guilt about not using it, but
I know. Yeah, these last couple of weeks, I was going out south of town to go hunt, or, you know, even longer ago, going out fishing south of town because my buddy has a boat down there. So rather than take my boat all the way south, we just went in his boat, and so I have a boat just sitting. I'm like, man, I'm not using my boat enough. Well, but the fish are down south, and I'm going out with some friends, and so what are you going to do? You know, I don't want to just use my boat for the sake of using the boat and spend a small fortune in gas getting down where I could go with friends. You know, we're fishing 5 minutes from their launch rather than me taking my boat an hour south. So I don't know. Back to
Yeah.
those Alaska problems, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. They're good problems to have.
Yeah,
Oh man,
for sure.
we're lucky to be talking about these. So
Yeah.
did you get out for deer yet?
I went out the last 2 weekends, kind of looking around. This last weekend, I got after it pretty good. It's just kind of in that pre-rut. You're hearing some people calling in some bucks and or calling in does, and but it's not really full bore. Usually at the end of the month is when it's really the day that I really circle is Halloween, and that
Okay.
weekend is kind of the big one to go. Last year on Halloween, I missed a buck with my bow, and then the next day, which was the 1st of November, I missed a different buck with my bow, and I thought, man, this is hot, this is crazy, like I will be able to redeem myself. And after that weekend, I didn't see another one. And then I got in my head. Then it was,
Yeah.
you know, oh, I missed my chances, but you know, there's still time. And then it's, oh man, no, I didn't see anything. And then the next weekend, okay, now I'm running out of time, and then just kind of the panic sets in, and all of a sudden it just gets away from you. So I ended up not getting one in the rut, which was too bad. But
So what do you think in buck fever, or
um,
what were the scenarios?
one was I saw it and I tried to kind of stay calm, and I rushed, so I didn't range it, and I guessed a lot closer than it was, and so I was about 10 yards short. And
Mm.
as soon as I hit the release, I dropped the bow to watch the arrow. And
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, that's just so I saw it just land like right at its feet. I thought, oh no. So it took off. And then the next day, I was just thinking, okay, you got to just be patient and range, be patient and range. And so I was sitting there for a while, and it was raining. So I was cold, almost to the point of shivering. And I had um, my Sitka thing zipped up all those, so like half my face was covered. And
Mm-hmm.
buck emerges, and so I take my time and I range it 37 yards, no sweat. And so I draw back, and I'm trying to find that anchor point, and I got half my face covered, and so I never practiced like shooting that scenario. Like I would kneel and I would draw and I would shoot, and I would
Yeah.
put my target back in some brush, so I kind of have to plan going over this branch and dropping it in. But I never planned, you know, if my zipper is all the way up and it's covering all the way to my face, am I going to be able to find that anchor point? And I didn't.
Yeah.
And so I was just kind of wiggling it around, and then I never found it on the nose, and I just pushed it way left in front of it. So
Man, that's so tough.
I know, and I don't know if
Yeah.
it's good to know what you did wrong, because at least you can correct it. Versus if you know what to do, then why didn't you just do it? You know. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think those are pretty regular problems. Those are really good ones, and those are like the great ones to share with other bow hunters, because those are great ones to learn from. But the one that I always practice and hear a lot of problems from are similar to the coat, the coat being zipped up, is your bino harness, because how high you wear it, is bear spray on it, where's your in reach on that, and so I frequently shoot it. I have a target range inside my house downstairs, and I frequently shoot with my bino harness on, because when will I be hunting without it on?
yeah, right.
But it definitely changes my setup.
Yeah, and
Pushes
even
me out a little further.
there are like when I've pulled it back the first time I started shooting with that on, I said this isn't really in the way at all. So I'm in pretty good shape here. But psychologically, you just feel that you've got this massive thing on your chest, and so does
Yep.
it make you bend your arms differently? Do you shrug your shoulders? It's a psychological thing when, like, drawing back, holding it, then looking down and seeing that you do in fact have quite a bit of room. So we don't have to worry about this here. We don't have to worry about hitting something, because you got to have the mind right when you're doing it.
Absolutely.
I think there is something, like if you miss with a rifle, you feel stupid and you feel terrible, like you missed out. after I missed the first one, there was still that bit of exhilaration because I was close enough to a deer, and I had this, oh, you're gonna get the next one, you're okay type feeling.
Yeah.
And then the next day I have another chance and I miss, and I think there's still that excitement of, man, it's still right there, and you didn't put a bad shot, you didn't hit it in the knee or anything crazy, or like in the side of the head and then it runs off. So it was a bad shot. It was so bad that you didn't even nick it,
Yeah.
and you're still excited
Those are the
because it
best bad
happened.
shots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I wonder how long I can last. Right, at some point, you got to seal the deal. You can't just, oh, good try, and maybe next time. Because if next time doesn't come for a while, then real frustration can start setting in.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
So we were talking about moose just before we close it up. I think it's always important to kind of like talk about what your harvest is, but then what you do with it, so keep everyone, focused on why we go do this. I do it so I can eat wild game and feed my kids wild game. But so yesterday I made a chili from the moose. So kind of regular chili. Everyone does chili, but I pulled out the beans, did butternut squash.
Ooh, nice.
Did zucchini, green peppers. Next time I'm going to add chilies, moose meat. And then I added Cajun moose dogs, and it was exceptional. So this beanless, a lot of vegetables, very kind of more of a healthy chili. But then these Cajun moose dogs from Alaska Sausage. So we had moose hamburger and the sliced sausage in there. It was really good. Just wanted to share some inspiration, just in case some of your listeners are thinking about some wild game meals.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Abby got a nice mule deer when we were down there, and so we don't have extra meat because I don't think you ever have extra meat. But 2 blacktails in the freezer. Buddy handed down some elk, and we have the mule deer, and so we're going to do some summer sausage and some bratwurst with the mule deer. And
Nice.
Abby's really fired up about all the different ways that you can do stuff, which is great, because sometimes I get a little bit intimidated by that, and we don't have like a meat processor where you can just drop them off. When
Right.
we were up there for the honeymoon, we stopped by, is it Indian Valley Meats?
Yeah, Indian Valley. Yeah,
Oh
they're
man,
great.
they had some just incredible things, and I just imagined how great it would be to just drop the thing off there, pick it up with all the great stuff you got.
Yeah,
But
we are really fortunate.
I'm entertaining the possibility of figuring out some sort of, this is actually bridging our 2 topics into one right here. Archery moose.
Yeah.
There are a couple opportunities around the state. Have you done an archery moose hunt? Have you? It's a slightly different time of year. Like, is it not a really effective time to go do it, or what do you got on that?
Yeah, so I bring my bow every year to moose camp. I'm not allowed to use it. It's camp rules until after the first moose is down.
Gotcha.
So we did have a moose down before I shot mine, but it had these what are they? Moose fly kind of lesions. So they're like softball size lumps all over the moose, and there was 50 or at least 50. There's one on his eye, and so we're a little worried about the meat from that moose. We hadn't learned a lot about that yet. So I was really hesitant to break out the bow, and we hadn't seen any bulls after we killed that one, anything that was close to legal. So I started carrying. I had my bow as like, okay, that's going to be my priority weapon now for the year. But then as moose camp went on, I switched to the rifle. And then I took my moose at about 24 yards. It would have been the perfect bow shot ever.
Yeah.
My bow, oh man, it was a bummer. So I do like archery moose. I personally have never taken one. I've been a part of a bunch of them. Both Dad and Earl are big bow hunters. One of if I was going to advise someone to go, I would start on the base hunts. You can do if you do the bow hunter safety, you can apply for on base, and You can do fall or winter. We've taken 3 as a family. My dad being the one that shot all the arrows. Since we started applying for those, I've never drawn, but anyway, that would be a good option. And if of course, if you can go during rut, that's the best time.
Yeah.
It can be hard to sneak up on a big bull moose. Especially it depends what terrain you hunt. I mean, where we're hunting at Moose Camp with all the willows being so tall and stuff, it's hard to get a good shot. And the closer you are to rut, the more opportunity you have to kind of coax them into a certain direction. And then we like to work in pairs. I think it's similar to like elk, where they seem to be really aware of where the location difference of calls. So if I'm standing 30 feet away or 30 yards away to make the bull call from where I was making a cow call, grunt or scrape, somewhere else, they seem to be really aware of that. So it's nice to have I'll call, if I'm the shooter, I'll work cow calls too. But as we get into the bull grunts and scraping and stuff, allow the other person to work. So then I'm set up at a kind of an opportunistic position. Yeah. And it's like anything, go outside and play a lot in the fall and you'll get tons of opportunities to play with bull moose. I just was biking on the trail over to Kincaid the other day and there's a big bull moose in the trail and I was calling with them. You got to take those opportunities when you get them.
Yeah. That perfect segue to a question that I had. You are the trivia guy on the Alaska Wild Project, and you destroyed the guys with that first question about PSI on the vacuum packer. I was surprised.
So bad.
I was surprised one of them didn't just say pass. That was good though. So I got a question for you, and kind of going along with the Kincaid Park thing. What is the moose population in the Anchorage Bowl? How many moose are living in the Anchorage vicinity?
Oh man, let's see here. If I had a guess, I'd say like something like 5. So 5 per mile, maybe like 500. I don't know, 500, 800. I go at 800.
800. That's
Do
pretty
you have
good.
that?
Yeah, I'm on the Alaska Department of Fish and Game. Moose are very common in Anchorage, with winter populations in the Anchorage Bowl approaching 1,000.
Wow. Yeah, that's so many.
Yeah.
If we had that moose population out at our camp. Whew.
Yeah. It says the moose populations appear to be on the rise again to the peak levels that were experienced in 1994. At that time, there were an estimated 2,100 moose in the Anchorage area and probably over 1,000 wintering moose in the Anchorage Bowl. This was followed by a sharp decline, harsh winters, nearly a third died. So, crazy.
Yeah, I could see we took the Super Cub up around kind of the south end of Denali Park up for ptarmigan in March last year, and the moose were all herded up and gathered in these stream beds because the snow was so high that when they tried to run, it would be over their back.
Oh, geez.
And you're like, man, these things could live in the harshest conditions. It's just amazing. So you can really see like where after seeing that, I really started to understand this heavy snow load on the moose. Because most of the time, we're seeing them around Anchorage and it's pretty moderate. We get a lot of snow, but it doesn't stay 8-10 feet deep. Yeah, that was a great question.
Thank you. I had some time to think about it. Yeah, it's a very easy thing to blame the decline in populations on predators, right? Just blame the wolves. But once you kind of see how everything kind of comes together, it's part predators for sure. It's also hunting pressure. But if you have just 1 or 2 bad winters, and then if you have an area that doesn't have the food to be able to support then you're going to have more animals that are going into even a regular winter. If they don't have enough browse, if they don't have enough food source, they're going to go in weaker. And rut beats them all up anyway. And so all those factors come into play. And then, predators could tip it over. Even hunters can tip it over the edge a little bit. But there's a lot of things that go into that. And so, if we're really caring about these populations, we got to look at all aspects of it, not just the convenient wolf arguer, which is funny because someone could listen to that and say, oh, he's a wolf lover. Like, no. I mean, I think wolf populations absolutely need to be culled in some areas because it's just they're decimating the populations. But there's a lot more to it. It's not just that simple.
Yeah. No, it's definitely multifaceted. And weather definitely plays a huge role. I do. I'm definitely one of those people that hunt in an area with a lot of predators and see the kill. When you walk these game trails, that's where all the animals die. And there's a lot. Yeah. But you're right. Snow loading and some of these other factors are big. Food source is huge. And that's why you trust that, that we got good people and the good biologists and people that really care about managing our animals and our the populations and how we hunt them and just the use of the land from the human part involvement. And I think we do. We have, we're lucky that we have that. We have the right people and they care.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Sometimes the decisions that are made, we don't necessarily agree with. And sometimes it's not the biologists that are making the decisions. The biologists say one thing, but the groups or someone else say something else, and it undermines the biologists. And then the biologists end up getting blamed for whatever, which is unfair. But it's tough. But it is a lot better here than a lot of different areas.
That's right. Yeah. We're lucky we have so much public land.
Yeah, for sure. When you do go out for archery hunts, what are you shooting bow wise? Are you shooting broadheads? What's how many grains are your arrows and all that?
Yeah, so I upgraded to Hoyt Redworks, and did I do that 3 years ago? Probably 3 years ago, maybe 4. And I like it. I like how it shoots. It's really fast off the back end. I did something different. I had read about, or maybe it was listened to a podcast, and they had talked about like when you go in and shoot a new bow. My old bow was, man, I got it when I was in high school, so it was like from '97. When you go in and shoot a new bow, tell like the expert there that you're shooting with that you don't want to know anything about the bow. So like tape over like the name and all that kind of stuff. And I tried to like not look at the newer models online. And so I went in and just shot a bunch of different bows, and I ended up really liking this one, and it ended up being the Hoyt Redworks. One thing I didn't like was that I cannot find a broadhead that tracks my field points. So I've never used mechanical, but I went to mechanical broadheads because of that. And I went to I'm trying to think of the name of the one I went to, but the reason I went to it, and there's a bunch of them out there that are made like this, but they fail open. So if it does break, it's going to open and hold its position. And so that forget what the name of the one I got was, but some of them don't do that failed open, and I wouldn't get that. So yeah, that's what I'm shooting. Man, I want to say like it's a 370 spine, and I don't love my arrows. I've been reading a lot more about like the weight forward. But I shoot great with them. I haven't really shot anything with it. So I'm kind of nervous about just shooting some big game animals with kind of lightweight arrows, even though I have a lot of velocity.
Yeah.
And then I shoot a lot at Kincaid. So, I like to shoot at like 40, 60, 80 yards at that target system they have out there. It's just incredible that they have that. So then when I'm not going to shoot a 60-yard shot in the field, but so when I do shoot 40, it seems really close.
Yeah. Right.
Because it's amazing if I start shooting at 40, then go out to 50, 60, 80, and then back to 40, how much better my groupings are.
Yeah.
So that was another like little trick that I've enjoyed. Yeah. I feel like I like to carry my bow a lot, but I'm not using it a ton.
That's exactly how it ends up. You get weird with like how you carry it. One hand, then you switch hands, and you flip it over, and it's great. And I think the more that you get in, it's the same thing with shooting a rifle too. The more that you get into it, you start to notice certain things and kind of notice what you like. But you can really, really overlook certain things and try to buy something that's going to make up for, or you think is going to make up for, the fundamental need to make a good shot. And that's just at the base of anything. You can buy a nice, a rifle that shoots accurate right out of the box. Well, how, right? I mean, if I twitch, or if I can't get steady, or if I can't do that, it doesn't matter how great the rifle is. Like if I can't use it, it doesn't matter. So it really, and I think taking that ownership is important. Knowing that I've got to do the work, and I bought nicer arrows. They're a little bit more expensive because they're match grade. Great, cool. Like if I don't find my anchor, if I don't do my fundamentals correctly, it's not going to matter what grade they are. So it's nice to have nicer things, and you can notice some of those differences the more that you shoot. But ultimately, it's just you got to make that good shot.
Yep, absolutely. I think that one of the big challenges for bow hunting in Alaska is that I rely on the wild game meat. Like I don't go out for fun. I do go out for fun, but there's a purpose, and I need to bring some meat home for. And if it was just me, it'd be different. But now I'm responsible for these two other humans, Yeah. And I really want them to not eat store-bought food when I can provide wild game or fresh vegetables from our farm or whatever. So there's moose, which is the big load of the freezer, is last. So it's like, okay, do you go at the beginning of the season, you got sheep or caribou, are you going to choose to go out there with the bow and screw around and take your chances that you get the moose? So I always find that challenge is like, I'll go out ready to shoot with my bow, spend 2 days looking for a caribou, not find one, and then on the last day be like, okay, well, I need to kill that animal. So then I'll pull out the rifle, which is unfortunate. And eventually, I think as I get older and the kids are hunting and stuff, I'll have more opportunity to, not be the only harvester.
Yeah.
So there's that, but then there's this piece where, it's almost like a reset for me every day when I shoot my bow. It's almost like spiritual. I can go down there and it like meditative, and shoot the arrows, and I'm not thinking about anything except for that. And I always shoot 12 minimum, and then I shoot them in groups of 6. So, if I end up shooting more, it'll be 18 or 24 or whatever. And that's how I start my day. Nice. And I love that. And so I've kind of fallen in love with that piece, that meditative piece of archery. And it's a challenge, like that it's tangible at that moment. Like I know at 80 yards where that arrow went, and that I wasn't on my best shot or what I was doing wrong. And I'm just in that space, whatever's happening at Double Shovel or our farm or, whatever's going on with the kids, like that's not on my mind, just the arrow placement and my mechanics. That part is just so cool. And then the third part that I really like, which I think any hunter really would enjoy is, and you mentioned earlier, is like being really close to the animal. You're winning. You're trying to get to beat that animal in its sensory zone. I mean, with a rifle and you're reaching out hundreds of yards, like you're really not in their sensory zone. But when you get 20 yards away from an animal, that's cool if you have a bow, a gun, or a camera. It doesn't matter. So I really like that kind of challenge of always having to try to get close and basically be an expert at its game.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
life
that's
or death game.
I'm in a good spot, which could be a recipe for disaster because like the freezer is fairly full. We got a good amount of cod and salmon, halibut. I got 2 black-tailed deer. We got that mule deer. Like I said, we got some elk too. So we're in a really good position as far as meat goes into the winter. But I got 2 tags left, so I don't know if it's going to be. I'm so relaxed that I kind of mess around and don't end up getting anything, or if that relaxation is going to allow me to just be calm and comfortable and notch another tag or 2. So we'll see. But it's, yeah, you do feel that idea of if I really want meat, I should probably get it the most effective way possible.
Yep, that's right.
What do you got as far as fly fishing opportunities this time of year? Things are kind of tapered. Are you getting is it trout fishing and dolly fishing? What's going on now?
Yeah, I mean, if I was out, this has kind of been the fall of the farms. Like I've spent a lot more time getting these farms up and running than I would normally be doing. Well, this is the first time I started farms, so, but this time of year is epic fly fishing. You know, you're going down. I would do mostly Kenai this time of year in a drift boat, speed fishing for rainbows and dollies. Steelheading's just ending down there. So, well, some people are still going. The time I like to steelhead is about to end down there, down on the Kenai. And then a lot of these other streams that are glaciated this time of year are really fun to fly fish because you know, they're dirty and then suddenly they're clear. So you can really take time and get away from people and fish these cool streams that are really not fishable any other time of year. The spring, they're dirty because of you know, snow melt and spring breakup, and in the winter they're frozen. In the summer it's all silt. And so you have this like small window this time of year to basically fish that are never fished. Mm-hmm. And I really think that's a great opportunity for anyone to go fish new spots, but that's a cool place to bring like your like kids and stuff because, you know, there's no other pressure there.
Yeah.
And these fish have never seen a fly or a bead, and you know, but I haven't got out as much as I would have liked.
Well, talk about the farms a little bit. If people are familiar, you co-founder, owner of Double Shovel Cider Company. In addition to that, you're growing greens, subscription greens. So you have a limited amount of greens that are available. People can order them, and they can just go by and they can pick them up. And so you're getting a supply of fresh produce. So talk a little
year
bit more
round,
about
right?
that.
Yeah. So during COVID, we realized. I mean, I think everyone probably knew this, but it really made me more aware that, you know, we didn't have a source of sustainable local greens year round in Anchorage. You know, we have a great summer, but after that, you're kind of washed up. So we wanted to be part of a solution and kind of be like one of the first people in that space to inspire other people to do like things to make, you know, to help with Alaska's food sustainability. So we bought these 2 hydroponic farms, and we have them down here at Double Shovel. They end up being about 4 acres of grow space, and we're growing 8 different types of lettuce, kale, basil, mustard greens, arugula, bok choy. Goes on. And then we harvest weekly, and then we put them in the fridge down here at Double Shovel, and people that are signed up for subscriptions on either a weekly or bi-weekly basis can come down and grab fresh lettuce mix or spicy mix or kale or whatever we have available that week, and then bring them to their home. And the second purpose of this is, you know, we want to be a part of like helping make a healthier eating culture. So it's like, yeah, I mean, we have all this wild game and this awesome fish, but half the year we're missing this fresh produce. So let's get it into our meals, and let's get it into the homes of people, not restaurants and stores, but actually get it into the home, so people can grow up, the kids can grow up eating and understanding the difference between fresh produce and, you know, this like stuff that's been on the boat for 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. So then they continue on with that healthy eating as they get older. Right. Yeah, so we're doing that. I can say that I did not have a green thumb, and it's like barely germinated now. Nice. But we grow really, really, really good stuff, and we've brought in a lot of passionate people from the community to help us. So they've been really giving the farm the love that the farm needs to kind of, you know, nice. Propagate this great food source.
Yeah. Abby, with a master's in botany and then working on the PhD in ecology, she's got a green thumb. But you know, that, like everything else, is just a skill that can be learned, which is good. You know, you put the time in to stuff, you can learn stuff and you can figure things out. You might not be an expert, but you can definitely learn things, and that's pretty cool. And it's nice to put attention to those things. And it's cool what you guys are doing there to have that not only as a way to market and sell to businesses, but also kind of promoting that lifestyle, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. If anyone wants to sign up for that, they can go to localgreensalaska.com.
Perfect. Well, I was about ready to set you up for the spike, and you could hammer down the closer there. But where else how else can people find you? Listen to the podcast, all that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram, aka Applejack, _ Applejack. We got Local Greens at Local Greens Alaska on Instagram there. Alaska Wild Project is a podcast with Brandon and Daniel and I, talking about all things Alaska, outside Alaska. And then you can come down to our tap room at Double Shovel Cider Company when you're in Anchorage and try one of 10 ciders we have at tap. And we're doing some cool stuff with sours, and now these like medium and heavy bodied ciders that are pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights of the honeymoon when we were up there and getting a tour there, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to have you back. It was really fun. Yeah. That was a really great afternoon.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I know you got to go pick up the kids, so thanks for chatting with me. Take care, and look forward to speaking to you in the future.
All right. Stay wild, man.
Take care, man.
Later.